salvation. In his outline, he has revelation of the righteousness of God, righteousness provided. But he says this is salvation. So you have solution, salvation, and then the uh, spirit-filled lives, SSS. We like to make our outlines where they all start with the same letter. Apparently, if you do your outlines all starting with the same letter, then people remember them better, because as you go to the next divisions, you have the segregation, the sacrifice and service, and the closing statement. So it's all the S's. Okay, is the next points down in your outline. But salvation is the chapters 3, verses 21 through chapter 5 and verse 11. Then we have not only, oh, I skipped also, the next section is sanctification of the saints, another S, and ends in an S. Chapter 5, verse 12 through 8, chapter 8, and verse 39. Well, actually, 6, chapter 6, and verse 23, he says, is the next break. And then he says chapter 7 is about struggle. Still another S that I skipped. Okay. And so it's full of S's. And so I imagine he probably went to conferences and talked for an hour and a half and taught this. And so it would have been or all day. I mean, probably a whole series of conferences on this book. And so then chapter 8, verses 1 through 39 is the spirit-filled life. And so you remember the struggle was, the most famous verse. Chapter 6 was, if you remember, is under the sanctification of the saints. Where it starts off, God forbid, the strongest negative. Should we sin that grace abound? God forbid, the strongest negative in the Bible. And so we start off with that, and that's under sanctification of saints. I'm very familiar with chapter 7. That's where he has that double talk with himself. I wish I could do what that I want to do, but I can't do what I want to do. I do what I don't want to do. And so that's the struggle, chapter 7. So most people are really familiar with those. Chapter 8 is where he's, my favorite, my life verse is, and I've learned to do let's see, I've learned all things, I'm sorry, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and who are called according to his purpose. And so I've got too many verses over here. Sorry. But that's in chapter 8, which is the spirit filled living. Then in chapter 9, you have the segregation. Oh, it's chapter 9, 10, 11 is segregation. Now, I don't know what kind of segregation it is. It's the kind they're trying to put on us today. But anyway, the chapters 12 through 13 is sacrifice and service. Then chapter 14, 15, chapter 14 and 15 is the separation. He says here each one of these is of the Son of God, but the sacrifice and service of the Son of God and the separation of the Son of God. But he just says a sacrifice and service and separation. But he's just getting the bullet points here. If you notice in your outline, then the closing statement, that's chapter 16, that's chapter 16. And so that concludes the introduction and outline. And so watch the next one is chapter 1, and we will see you in a moment if you with that. And so with that,